What if the evidence you found that proved aliens were among us was actually just bait? And what if every step you took to warn the world simply tightened the screws on your own mind? Tonight we're peeling back the layers of the disturbing true story of Paul Bennewitz, a brilliant physicist who believed he'd stumbled upon an interstellar invasion. It's the story of a man whose own intellect was weaponized against him by an Air Force office that, rather than debunking his claims, decided to break him. This isn't just a conspiracy theory, it's a documented case of psychological warfare waged by a government against one of its own citizens, with a devastating human cost. In 1979, Paul Bennewitz wasn't some eccentric in a tinfoil hat. He was a respected electrical physicist running his own successful lab, Thunder Scientific, in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He built components for NASA, held patents on sensitive equipment, and was a trusted defense contractor. He was a man of science and logic who lived a comfortable life just miles from Kirtland Air Force Base. Then came one fateful night. While calibrating antennas on his roof, his equipment picked up something extraordinary, a pulsed signal that jittered across every frequency. It wasn't military traffic or a television broadcast. This signal was distinct, almost alive, pulsing with an unnerving rhythm, as if something enormous overhead were pinging the ground. Most engineers might log the anomaly and move on, but Paul Bennewitz stayed up all night, meticulously documenting its every nuance, convinced he'd stumbled onto a surveillance grid, but not a human one. Weeks later, a more disturbing pattern emerged. Ranchers near Dulce, New Mexico, began reporting horrific cattle mutilations. These weren't predator kills, they involved surgical precision, with bloodless incisions and organs removed with impossible neatness. The local sheriff was baffled, but Bennewitz saw a sinister connection to the strange signals he was tracking. His curiosity now a civic duty, Paul drove into the wilderness. Over Archuleta Mesa, he filmed glowing orbs dancing in the night sky. Back in his lab, he matched their strobe rate to the very pulses thumping through his oscilloscope. It was the same cadence. To Paul, this was a chain of evidence pointing to an intelligent, non-human technology. Convinced he'd uncovered a profound threat, Bennewitz typed a detailed technical memo and walked it into Kirtland Air Force Base. He asked the commander, "Do you need help defending New Mexico, or do I?" The officers thanked him, stamped his report secret, and sent him home. Paul felt a surge of patriotic pride. He couldn't have known that the Air Force had just opened a file on him ominously labelled Cuckoo Bennewitz, useful. Soon after, Special Agent Richard Doty of the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, AFOSI, knocked on Paul's door. Doty, the very picture of trustworthiness, was officially tasked with protecting classified technology, but unofficially he handled civilian UFO nuisances. He flashed his badge and said, "Mr. Bennewitz, some of us believe you're onto something big." Paul was overcome with relief. Someone was finally taking him seriously. Doty became his confidant and handler, feeding him a carefully curated blend of tantalising fiction and mundane fact. He provided grainy photos of saucers, fake autopsy reports of aliens, and memos about a secret treaty, all stamped confidential or top secret. These clandestine meetings in dimly lit parking garages fed a powerful narrative that Paul was the civilian hero they had been waiting for. Paul swallowed it whole. After all, who would go to such elaborate lengths just to fool one lone engineer? The scale of the deception made it seem impossible to be anything but the truth. The true genius of the operation was that the disinformation wasn't all fantasy. Doty fed Bennewitz authentic flight test schedules, genuine radar equations, and real technical specs for military hardware. This ensured Paul's analytical mind couldn't dismiss them, but carefully interspersed were poison pills of comic book level nonsense designed to warp his perception of reality. Overnight, Paul's living room transformed into a chaotic war room with walls covered in corkboards and yarn connecting alleged underground tunnels and hybrid breeding vats. His scientific mind was now consumed by a narrative of cosmic betrayal. His wife, Myrna, begged him to rest, but he was too far gone, warning her to pack a go-bag for when the alien pulse knocked out the grid. Unable to break through his paranoia, Myrna began sleeping at her sister's, a heartbreaking acknowledgement that the man she married was being systematically replaced by a terrified stranger. By 1983, the rumours of Paul's files reached John Lear, a famed ufologist and son of the Learjet inventor. Lear taped hours of interviews with Paul, listening to his increasingly elaborate tales. Lear then added his own dramatic flourishes, vats of human body parts and security doors labelled Level 7, and posted a summary on an early online bulletin board. Overnight, the obscure town of Dulce became the Vatican of alien conspiracy theory. The story exploded. Bill Moore, a best-selling author on the Roswell incident, promised Paul a lucrative book deal. Paul saw Moore as another powerful ally. What he didn't know was that Moore later admitted he was acting on instructions from the Air Force. His mission was to steer Paul deeper into fantasy, ensuring no serious reporter could sort fact from fiction. The government had effectively weaponized the UFO community to gaslight an already vulnerable man. Lear and Moore gained fame from the story, while the Dulce Base, a complete fiction, became embedded in the public consciousness. The constant psychological pressure finally pushed Paul Bennewitz past his breaking point. In June 1988, he barricaded himself inside his home, placing guns on every windowsill, convinced grey aliens were scaling the walls to abduct his family. For him, this was the final battle. Albuquerque SWAT teams spent 6 hours talking him down. They sedated him and wheeled him into a psychiatric hospital. His heartbroken wife Myrna signed the committal papers. When he emerged 3 months later after electroshock therapy and lithium, the vibrant intellectual spark that had defined his life was gone. He still peered at the sky, but his oscilloscope stayed dark. His once proud antennas sagged against the New Mexico sky, a tragic metaphor for his shattered mind. Friends said he was a hollow shell. He died twice, once when that psychiatric ward door locked behind him, and again, officially, in 2003. If this story feels like a warning bell for our own times, please subscribe so it isn't forgotten, and comment below, what would you have done if Agent Doty, with his polite smile and eyes-only folder, knocked on your door? Could you spot the lie stitched between two truths? The proof of this orchestrated tragedy surfaced years later. Declassified Air Force memos from 1989 unequivocally proved the campaign against Bennewitz was a formal operation codenamed Project Beta. Its objective was stated in cold, bureaucratic prose. Contain citizen investigator Bennewitz through gradual exposure to engineered datasets until credibility collapses. Doty's superiors actively funded the operation, budgeting $42,000 for audio, visual aids and document fabrication, a line item you can find in the National Archives. It's all there in black and white. Yet, when reporters asked the Pentagon for comment, a spokesman offered the dismissive response. Mr. Bennewitz was a private citizen. The Air Force has no comment on private delusions. There were no hearings, no reprimands, and no apology offered to his widow, who still lives in that same adobe house, its windows now perpetually covered. The institutional silence remains deafening. Why go to such cruel lengths? The answer lies in the genuine threat Bennewitz posed. He was a cleared defence contractor with a legitimate electronics company. If he kept digging, he might have exposed Project Aquarius, an actual classified program testing advanced plasma drones and stealth aircraft out of Kirtland. The signals he detected weren't from UFOs, they were the electronic signatures of top-secret military craft. Instead of a court order, which would draw attention, they employed a more insidious strategy. They flooded him with so much noise that he would never be able to find the real signal again. It's a classic intelligence technique. Jam the channel until the operator can no longer discern a genuine signal from the overwhelming static. They didn't need him to stop looking, they just needed him to look in the wrong direction. And they succeeded, tragically. The Dulce Base, a phantom born of a psyop, did not die with Paul Bennewitz. The myth spread through the internet, becoming a foundational tale for a new generation of conspiracy theorists. It morphed into TV shows depicting firefights between soldiers and aliens. Today, you can buy Dulce Base hoodies, a testament to its enduring cultural footprint. Every retelling peels further from its tragic origin. One brilliant man who trusted his government and lost his mind. The meme lives on, offering a simple narrative for the chaos of black budget science. Meanwhile, real secret programs like PRISM and XKeyscore slide by without a ripple of public concern. The manufactured myth distracts us from the more mundane and often more dangerous truths lurking in dense budget reports. Look at the shiny alien battle, and don't pay attention to the quiet consolidation of power happening in front of you. In an age of deepfakes and sophisticated AI, how many Paul Bennewitzes are scrolling through their feeds right now, being imperceptibly nudged down a rabbit hole? The modern day Agent Doty could be an algorithm, feeding you exactly the conspiracy that confirms your deepest fears while burying the verifiable truth. The only vaccine is active humility, the ability to pause and question, especially when evidence feels too perfect. When every puzzle piece clicks neatly into place, it's often a sign that someone is being paid to make it fit. Paul's tragedy isn't just a Cold War relic, it was a terrifyingly successful beta test for the information age we live in. It's a stark warning that the most dangerous walls are not the ones aliens might scale, but the ones built around our own minds. So, the next time you see a grainy clip of a UFO, remember Paul Bennewitz, the man who listened too well, trusted too eagerly, and was systematically erased so a classified drone could keep flying under the radar. His oscilloscope is silent, but the potential for manipulation is stronger than ever, waiting for the next curious mind to decide if the pattern they see is proof or cleverly laid bait. If this story rattled you, share it, because the cruelest trick isn't making you believe in aliens, it's making you doubt your own sanity, so the real truth stays safely buried.